All right, so roughly, actually February 14th, Valentine's Day. Seems a little crazy. I'm in the garage working on the Impala, but I have a few hours to spare. So wanted to go through, give some updates, talk about what I'm working on here today. And yeah, that's pretty much the latest. Finally, kind of show you what I got going on here. The Impala is up on the lift here. I've noticed that the lift allows me to store junk under the car, which is nice. Got some 2x4 sitting there for a basement project, things like that. But got the jack under there, got tools, all that good stuff. One quick thing here, I posted a quick video on Instagram of this Optima. This is from 2009. I've used the digital 1200 Optima charger in the past and had it on here. Just figured I'll try to salvage the Optima, at least until the car gets running, I guess. I mean, obviously that's an old battery. I don't really trust it for anything sitting or anything like that. But anyways, the charger basically kept saying it's unable to charge. And it actually created the battery. Like, I came out here and it was like almost like a fizzing or hissing sound, and there's like these little, I'll show you here, vents on the battery, which that's where the noise was coming out of. So a little freaky. Never really heard a battery hiss and fizz like that, but nevertheless, as you can see with the underhood light, it's still working. It did crank the car over yesterday, but for the time being, it's what I'm going to use. My initial plans here to kind of get the ball rolling here, I'm going to pull the drive shaft, which I'll show you that. I don't think that's going to happen today. I want to take it and get balanced. It is a aftermarket drive shaft that's longer to allow the extended suspension on the back. More on that. Start draining fluids. You know, the other thing I need to do, which is good practice, I guess, if you're ever doing this, just photograph and videotape. Not necessarily videotape, but film everything, just so you know, I guess, where everything was and where it's gonna go back. So I need to do that before I start going too crazy. But today, what I'm gonna get going here is the innovative wiring battery cables. Most factory battery cables, it's kind of weird lighting here, I'll get some more lights up here, but any type of factory car you get, maybe not necessarily nowadays on newer cars, but the batteries are wired, we'll say, subpar. The cables are good enough. They're not the best. They're not the worst. You know, you can buy real cheap battery cables just like you can buy real cheap jumper cables. What Gary at Innovative Wiring does is he makes upgraded cables for these Caprices and Impalas, things like that. So I'm going to walk over here. I want to show you what these are. I think I have done this before, but today we're actually going to do it here. I mean, legit hefty stuff. I mean, it's seriously probably triple the size, the factory wiring. And I'll have one off here to sort of compare them and show you. Gives you both cables here. Here's our, I'll kind of coil this up here. Sorry about my jumpiness. There's our negative with the little piece that goes to the ground. All the different connections here, you know, starter, every altar, everywhere it's going basically. The fuse block. His cables don't have the pre-installed bolt like the factory does, so you basically have to install these studs with the provided Allen wrench onto battery, and then you tighten it down that way. Kind of cool. Gonna do it now, just even though I'm getting rid of the Optima. The main reason I want to do this job now is because this is one of those things where if I install this, you know, after you pull the motor, you do all that, I want to eliminate one possible issue that could come up. Like, not that I don't trust these cables, but anytime you throw new items on, I want to limit the amount of issues that could potentially pop up on that first crank over. So basically I'm going to put these in, show you how these go. Make sure the car still starts, so that way I kind of eliminate that issue from, you know, when the motor goes in. Make sure we have that end of things working. You don't want to take 25 things, put them together, and then have one thing not work and you don't know what it is. So I'm going to start here following the innovative instructions. In the meantime, if you want to check them out, innovativewiring.com. Handmade stuff, like custom, like as in these took a while to get. They're not just sitting on a shelf. Like he made to order basically. So really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to get this going here, show you kind of step by step. Thanks for watching. So like I mentioned, this Optima is not going to be here for too long, but I'm not going to take it out now because I don't think I need to yet. We'll see though. But my first move is I'm going to disconnect the negative battery cable like normal if you're disconnecting the battery. Then go to the positive. I do have one of these handy little wrenches that's sort of sized to fit battery terminals, that sort of thing. But I apologize if you find that my procedures are off here. I had a guy freak out on me because I used this charger wrong on a video. Look, I'm not going to kill myself here. I'm taking my time. I understand there's probably a very strict procedure on undoing batteries, but I'm going to undo the negative first. That's what I know. It's never done me wrong. If you have a special way to do that, great, sweet. I'm glad you do. So first move here is disconnect the battery cables, and then there's this little like pigtail ground here. Sorry my lighting, it's weird. That actually connects down here to the negative on the battery. So I'm going to get that going first here. All right, I wanted to show you this. It's kind of tough to see. This is the negative cable right here that goes into the negative side of the battery. And then there's that, they call it a pigtail, what I was telling you about before, just a little grounding piece that goes right down there on the fender. There is a machine screw type bolt that goes in there. I'm just going to take it, turn it back into there just a couple turns so I don't lose it, because that seems like that's always what happens. So positives disconnected over here, negatives disconnected, ready for step 2. Just to give you a point of reference where I'm at next, this is obviously the engine bay. We kind of go down from the alternator right down here. He said, I apologize about the lighting. I'm not. I'm in my garage with the door closed because it's about 5 degrees outside. AC line right here. There's a sensor on there. I'm going to disconnect that without busting my knuckle here, just because it kind of ends up in the way, and as you can see my little loom is coming off, so I can fix that. If I kind of pan back out here, our negative, if we trace it, runs down there, kind of jiggling it there, and it goes through what is like kind of a holder here, which I've popped open right in there. So I'm going to undo that, snake this out of here like so. Basically you're just following the lines and making it run the same way it's going before. So I mean that's pretty much what the instructions say too. You don't want to route it in a weird way that wasn't the same. So following that up here and then moving on. The negative cable does go up and around, and I kind of just showed this to you. Big mess of cables there, but it goes up and around and actually under the alternator, and then there's actually, it's tough to make out, but you can see it sort of pop out back in there. There's a bolt that it bolts to behind that alternator bracket there that looks kind of like a tube. Basically, you could fight and fiddle with this, but per the instructions, Innovative says to remove the alternator, which is somewhat of a bummer, but it's actually easy on this car, it looks to be. More of a bummer though than because I'm going to put it right back on and make sure these cables all work and the car still starts. So I'm not going to go into how to take off the alternator, but I guess one surprising thing that kind of blows my mind, considering I've never really worked on this engine, if you don't know why, kind of go back and watch the videos, but the belt assembly is completely on this passenger side. It doesn't run over here. That's interesting to me. I don't know, but alternator's right on top, nice and easy, much easier than my LS1. So gonna remove that. Next clip will be YouTube magic and we have the alternator off. Alternator's still in. I just wanted to show this because this is relevant. I took off this wire off the back of the alternator. Obviously that one runs down here. You can see me wiggling it to the positive. Just wanted to take note of that. Yeah, so back to the alternator. Just like that, the alternator is gone. You can see all the brackets and different spots where it did bolt up. There's my belt. I just kind of halfway took off. Alternator hookup. That wire I just mentioned is kind of tucked over here out of the way. And then this wire right here, which the shadow's blocking, that one, that's our negative. And it runs, I hit this with the light. You can follow that socket right there with my driver on it in there. It sandwiches between this black alternator bracket right there. It looks like a tube with a hole in it right there. And it goes on the block between there. So basically, to take that bolt out, it's a nut on a stud, 14 millimeter with some extensions. Gonna pull that out. Bracket's going to come out, and then the cable will come out, which you can see kind of hanging right there. Pull out the full negative, and then I'm going to give you a side-by-side here, the difference. And then we'll start running the new negative. So without getting too crazy technical, as you can see, this is the factory Impala negative cable. And just sitting next to the innovative one, I mean, serious difference in size. I mean, here's our connector end. Major, I mean, literally the ground pigtail on the innovative one is bigger than the whole negative cable in general. So, crazy good upgrade. I mean, if I even compare the grounds here, sorry, I'm trying to finagle all this. I mean, look at that difference. It's just insane. And yeah, you could say these are overkill. Factory had it right. I mean, the car ran for 200,000 miles with this, but nevertheless, definitely a sweet, awesome upgrade. So what I'm going to do before I forget how this runs, I'm going to start routing this negative one here the exact same way as the factory one did, and then kind of give you a little look at it once it's in there. It's definitely a lot bigger though, and it's going to be trickier to shove through all those small spaces. Alright, so snap cut to some blood, some grease, some good stuff. Here's what's going on. If you can see back in there, it's tough, but there's the bolt and the nut with the bracket that runs to the top there. Back there's the new wire. It is considerably larger, as I showed you earlier. I'm hoping that doesn't hit the alternator. I'm going to doubt it will, but if not, I can always push it down just a little bit more. It does get routed back through the little holder there. You can actually see it pretty well because it's the only clean wire under here. And then runs back over here. I have not connected the ground or the fender ground there, or the negative, all that stuff. There's two more connections to do. I just wanted to get it all, the alternator back, and then, you know, kind of connect these at the very end after the positive is run. So, putting the alternator back here, and then we're going to move on to the positive cable next. Alright, so the black negative cable is pretty much run, alternator's back in. Next move is the positive one. That has three, we'll say leads off it. You know, just have the main, hooks to the battery, one to the alternator, one to back here, the fuse block type area, power distribution center, whatever you want to call it, and then another one to the starter, which means we do have to go under the car, which should be easy enough with this lift. I want to stress that this is really, once again, if you don't know why or how I got this car, what's happening with it, short version, this was my dad's car since new. It's kind of like interesting because I was in the car when we bought it. You know, my dad's driven 180,000 miles. He's obviously done a lot of the work himself here and there, maintenance items, but nothing really major is broken. There's 2 points though of this rambling. It's funny working on this car. I found it's super easy, even in this just little thing, and mainly because everything was designed in, like, you know, 1985 for this, you know, beast of a car. Even though this is 1996, they, you know, and some of it was designed even earlier than that. This type of body style is super old. The second thing that's weird to me, it's this weird, like if I take the bolts off the alternator, I know, you know, I can tell it's not a factory one, obviously, you know, it wouldn't last that long. I can tell my dad put it on though, and it's weird because like every bolt I take off, you can tell like it's just about the same amount of torque as I would put on the bolt, or, You know, it's not like some random mechanic put it on there and, you know, over tightened it or put it on wrong. It's just this weird, like, I don't want to say connection type thing, but it is odd that, like, you know, I'm like, oh, yep, same effort I would put into it to take it off or put it back on or whatever. It's kind of funny. So moving on to the positive one here. I don't know if you can hear that over there, but the guy online made a good point, and I didn't do it with the negative one, which I suffered for. He says, warm up your cables. These innovative cables are so big. Heat them up, put them in the sun. It is, you know, -5 degrees outside today. My garage says roughly in the high 50s still. A soft, malleable cable is going to install better. So I have it sitting over there in front of a little tiny space heater just to sort of soften it up. So positive time. So if we look here, you can't really tell, but down there's the positive. Like I showed you earlier, one of the wires is this one, which actually goes over to the alternator there. So that's one of them, already off and done. And I put the nut on the alternator just so I don't lose it. The other one, if you can tell back here, let me get my light here to make it, there we go. This is like that power distribution center, whatever you want to refer to it as. I already took off the little cap that's hanging there. That's one nut. You want to be real careful breaking this loose because you can really destroy this whole thing there. GM has been notorious for these fuse blocks just being kind of flimsy, and if you torque on this nut, you're going to rip that stud right out of the thing. So that's two of them. I'm going to take those off, and then they both route under the overflow here. You can kind of see the two loomed wires there. They run up under here through this little plastic kind of holder thing. And the new wires do have new plastic looms on them, so that's kind of nice. And you can see the third, man, this lighting's bad, I apologize, running down there, and it is bolted to the frame down there. So that one will be probably my last one to deal with, but I'm going to get these upper two done before I start climbing underneath. In the process of snaking the positive cable here, actually both of the lines run under the overflow here, and then the one that goes up to the power block up here goes under the power steering, under the AC, and then it actually bolts right onto there, if you can make that out. I just kind of snugged it for now. I didn't really even tighten it all the way. Don't forget to transfer over this cap because that's going to go onto there. Little tip about this guy right here, I fought with the alternator one because it has this cover on it. Eventually just kind of realized, well, the cover just comes right off, and it actually makes snaking it under the overflow a lot easier. So little tip, I guess, this is going to bolt right onto the alternator over here, and then before I put the bolt on though, I have to put the cover on. So working through this positive cable, the big long one that's left, this huge one, that's the one that's going to run down to the starter, and I still have the mess of the factory one still in there just because I didn't want to forget how it ran. Moving right along, not too bad. So positive is connected now to the battery, as you can see right there. That, I mean, this is an aftermarket, you know, AutoZone battery, rebuilt, remanufactured, whatever you want to call it. That is a 10mm nut on there. If we go up here, this is covered now with that factory cover. I'm trying to show you here best way I can. That was, I believe, 15mm. Yeah, that's a 15mm nut up there on the power distribution area. So it's now covered again. Cables are run factory all basically along this way over to here. Next up is the big guy that runs. You can see actually the factory one there. It runs down along the frame. There is one frame catch there that I can see. Gary from Innovative does give us new clamps that will hold the new bigger cable. That bolt down there, that's the first clamp. 10mm is the best one that I can find that fits it. So we'll break that loose to start. You reuse the old bolts. I recommend some maybe WD-40 on them, or oil or grease or something before you put them in, just to ease that in there. But this is one of those spots too, if your car's seen a lot of slop, I could see this being a broken bolt. But gonna work through this, then we'll probably next clip here be under the car with the starter. So yeah, moving right through, one more to go. Alright, so underneath the car, kind of give you a little point of reference: oil filter, oil pan, transmission, cat. You're looking at the underneath of an 180,000 mile LT1. I already removed the, sorry, I can't really do multiple things here. I gotta go like police style with the light next to the camera here. This was right here, 13mm bolt nut on there. The tricky part is going to be the catch on the frame for this one is right up there on top of the frame, which you can't really see from the top or the bottom. So that's another 10mm though. So we're going to break all that loose, pull it out, and then run the new innovative cable, which will tie onto this stud. You can tell we do have some oil leakage, probably rear main. I got some little bit of leakage around the oil filter over there. So, you know, it's all little things that are going to be addressed here on the engine build. But, you know, when you look underneath the car, pretty darn clean, other than some random little spots. But overall, it's solid, that's for sure. Being lower definitely does have its few wear spots that hit, that's for sure. So, all right, moving on here. Here we go. All right, so underneath here still, positive is bolted to the starter. It's run up there, short of catching the clamps, which, you know, with the engine swap, I'm debating not catching them both, but let's see here if I get bored. But fully caught under there on the starter. So last but not least, one of the most important parts, the hookup of the new cables to the batteries. We clearly have some excess slack here on it, but I think that'll, you know, it's better to have too much than too little in this case. He gives you these sweet little studs that you have to turn into technically whatever battery you end up using. Once again, with this project, this battery is going to be trash after the engine swap and everything. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to give it a try to make sure it all works. So you turn these into your battery with the supplied Allen wrench. Important safety tip, he says, do not tighten it too far, because if you do, you could puncture your battery. So just so it's snug, we're going to get these going here, catch the terminals onto the new studs, and then see if it starts up. Okay, so other than the obvious mess I have to clean up, that is it. Ground's over there, run under here. Now I do have the luxury, as you can see, I didn't connect it to the frame yet. It's a great luxury here. If you call it, you know, a positive, the engine's coming out, so I can really get a better look at these cables once it's all apart and sort of route them against the frame, maybe even catch another clamp or two. So now here comes the moment of truth. We do have positive sign that the light's on up there, so let's see if this thing starts up. Now, one thing that worries me is this Optima that's kind of dying and slowly not lasting, so let's see if it even clicks over. Okay. I know that was quick, but just so I don't asphyxiate myself here in the garage, it seems to work. Now, very cool stuff from innovativewiring.com. You know, just a great upgrade. I do have from Gary the electric water pump wiring harness he makes. That's going to go on this. But, you know, it's one of those upgrades. I don't really know if you would notice it. I don't know if I'm going to notice it in all honesty, but one of the cool things about this though is when you're pulling the engine, you're doing something like this, it's something, I guess, suspect, 180,000 mile battery cables. Yeah, something could go wrong. The point of this though is, when I'm doing this car, like I just took that alternator off, I'm going to put a rebuilt alternator on. I know this one works, but there's just certain things I want to be sure that, that mental checklist of, yeah, it's done. Everything's going to work. So this is one of those things, Gary hooked it up and sent them our way. Great product. Everything was right, exactly the perfect length. Just be ready to wrestle with these cables just a little bit, because they are bigger, and you're snaking them through a spot they've never been, and they don't have that perfect bend and like the factory stuff does after you take it out, because it's been in there so long. So keep that in mind if you do this. Check them out, innovativewiring.com. Thank you so much for watching. More to come on the Impala project. Spent about 2 days out here, but definitely lots to do on this so far. So thanks for watching. hoagiesgarage.com. Keep checking back for more.